Hi, I'm Neil McCoy-Ward, founder of the Property Cashflow Academy, and today's question is, what's the difference between a licensed HMO and an unlicensed HMO? All right, here we are on the board then. So there's two types of HMO. A lot of people aren't aware of this. They think there's just one type, but there's actually two. So you have your unlicensed HMO and your licensed HMO. So we're going to talk about the unlicensed HMO first because it's actually a lot more simple than the licensed HMO, which is quite complex. There's a lot of rules around that. So an unlicensed HMO is very simply this. Let's say that there's 4 of you in your family. Right, so mum, dad, 2 kids, whatever, however you structure it, that is not an HMO. That is just a normal family house. It's not classed as an HMO, a house of multiple occupation, right? It's just a family home. However, let's say you've got a doctor, a nurse, an accountant, a solicitor, or whatever, just giving you 4 examples there, and they share a house. So let's say there's 4 rooms in that house, and there's 4 people. Okay, and they don't know each other. These people don't know each other, and they're not family, they're not friends, they're unrelated people. That is classed as an unlicensed HMO. All right, so it's different to a family let. Now, in most cases, this does not require a license. And I'm saying most cases because there is a caveat to this, and that is that some councils within the UK have something called selective licensing. Or there's Article 4, so that they're similar, they come together. But selective licensing is where they may say a 4-bed property needs a license. Okay, it's not common, it doesn't come up very often, but it does come up occasionally. So you've got to check the selective licensing, so write that down, selective licensing, and Article 4 direction for your area for HMOs. So if you're thinking of buying an HMO or turning a property into an HMO, definitely check that ruling first with your local council. Let's come on to the licensed properties now then, because licensing is a whole new ball game. It's a minefield, it's quite complex. So I've licensed dozens and dozens of properties now. So for me, it's really, really simple. However, the first time you ever do it, it's really difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. The first time you do it is hard work because you've got to figure out all this stuff. You've got to go through all these pages of regulations, make sure that you've got all your property done and the license is correct and all the things they ask for. So let me give you an example of what they might ask for on a licensed property. They might say you need special fire safety equipment in the property. So that might be that each and every single room needs a fire alarm and smoke detector, and it's got to be interlinked, mains wired, battery backup. That's just an example. All right, so that's that. They might then say you need fire equipment. Okay, so that's another thing they might insist on. Certain fire extinguishers, they might say water only, they might say powder only. You need fire blankets. There might be an emergency escape route required, which in almost all cases there is. So that's another thing we've got to look at. So that's an escape route. And I'll give you an example here. There are certain properties that I've got in my portfolio which I will not license those properties. I could put an extra person in and change one of the rooms into another bedroom. But I know, because I'm an expert in all of this now, including all the fire safety and fire escape routes, I know that in some properties that the most high risk area for a fire is the kitchen. It always has been, it always will be. So that's your most high risk area. So let's say you want to convert a couple of the rooms downstairs into bedrooms, right? But one of those rooms down there is where the fire escape would have been, or the back door. Yes, you can convert a room like that, but what you've got to be aware of is if there was a fire, okay, and it's in the kitchen here, and people are trying to run down the stairs, they can't get out the front door, how are they going to get out the back door if that is now a bedroom and the door's locked. So that's just an example of fire escape. So you've got to think of all the fire escape routes as well. Again, on the same theme as fire, you've got to make sure that you've got fire doors. And again, a lot of people underestimate this and they say, oh yeah, fire door, 30 quid, 30 pounds, I'll just get someone to fit it, 50 quid and I'll be done. No, you know, people that say that, I know they've got no experience in HMO licensing, because that's not how it is at all. Yes, you might get a fire door for 30 or 40 pounds. However, you then need your illuminescent strip, you need your smoke strip around it, you need the door closer as well. So that's usually an overhead closer. You can have the ones that are on the chain inside the door and all that, but really you want the overhead tight door closer. You've got to make sure you've got the right handle with the thumb turn on the inside of the door. All right, if you haven't got the thumb turn, that is not legal, because if there was a fire, right, how are they going to get out if that was locked or something like that? So there's a lot of things that you've got to take into account. The other thing, and this comes on to escape route, you've got to have the right signage. So I always, it's not always a legal requirement, but I always put a fire escape route. I put the signage on there. I have a fire action plan, so an action plan upon fire. So all these things you've got to bear in mind. Then it comes down to room sizes and kitchen size and the living room size. There's a lot of things. Fridge space, right? Washing facilities. If you haven't got enough of a sink, you'll probably need a dishwasher as well. So there's a lot of stuff that you've got to bear in mind and think about when it comes to HMO licensing. The next thing to bear in mind is the cost around licensing. So an unlicensed property, it really isn't expensive. It's, you know, easily get all the regulations done for about £1,000 for an unlicensed property. However, when it comes to a licensed property, you can spend anywhere up to £5,000. And most of that £5,000 is the fire safety system. So it's usually the smoke alarms, the heat detector in the kitchen, emergency lighting. This is another thing. And then of course you've got all your certificates. So there's a lot of certificates as well that you have to actually get and do. EICR, electrical inspection condition report, right? There's about 6 or 7 of these reports as well you've got to have done. So it's important you understand all this, because if you are going to do a licensed property, great, go for it, because they are fantastic. But also be aware it's going to change the mortgage as well. So something like an unlicensed property, a lot of mortgage providers will allow you to just do that with permission for multiple letting, as long as you've got the right insurance, HMO insurance. However, once you go into licensed territory, you normally need a new mortgage, such as a commercial HMO mortgage. So it's just something you've got to be aware of. You know, you don't want to breach your mortgage lender's terms and conditions on the property. All right, so hopefully that gave you everything you want to know around HMO licensing, unlicensed versus licensed. If you've got some questions, just drop them below and I'll get to those questions. But please click like on the video, subscribe to the channel so you get all of this content, and I'll see you on the next video.